Vamos a darle la bienvenida a nuestro siguiente speaker que viene desde Estados Unidos y viene a plantearnos el repensar finalmente el futuro. Todo esto a partir de los gemelos digitales. Quiero darle la bienvenida a Bill Quinn, futurista de Tata Consultancy Services. Welcome to our summit. Bill, you need that.
Thank you. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name's Bill Quinn, and I come from Denver, Colorado, so quick little trip down here to visit you all. I'm a futurist at TCS, so what that means is I spend my days really looking out towards the horizon at all of the things that are going on that are shaping our emerging future. And that's not just science and technology. It's economic factors, it's societal factors, it's geopolitical factors. All of these things are going into this sort of stew that's making up our emerging future. And so if I can leave you with really one thought today, it's really to come away with this. The illiterate of the 21st century aren't going to be those who can't read and write, but those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn, and do that over and over again throughout our lives. Now, that's easy to say, but it's much harder to do. Let's have a look.
All right, one more time.
Once you have a rigid way of thinking in your head, sometimes you cannot change that, even if you want to. He had a challenge for me. He had built a special bicycle and he wanted me to try to ride it. He had only changed one thing. When you turn the handlebar to the left, the wheel goes to the right. When you turn it to the right, the wheel goes to the left.
So that professor has been trying to let somebody win $100 if they could just ride that bike across the stage. He's been doing that for 10 years now. Nobody's been able to do it. So it's a great illustration of how ingrained our thought processes become and how difficult they are to break. We also have to understand, we also have to understand that we can't simply learn from our own life's experiences. We have to recognize that history is much longer than the life that we've lived, and the experiences that we've had aren't broad enough and big enough to carry us forward. So we're going to spend a little bit of time really digging into understanding what history can teach us about the future, and we're going to focus on a particular period of time. It was this period of time from about 1870 to 1970, the Second Industrial Revolution. A lot of people call it the special century, and it was the special century because it was a period of time where across all aspects of our lives, particularly for those of us in the Western world, where our standard of living was elevated in a way that we had never seen before in human history. And so how did this happen? What was it about that special century that created this incredible standard of living? So what we did is we plotted out everything that went on during that period of time, all of the major inventions, all of the major events that went on, new economies that were formed, new governments that were formed. And what we learned is that it wasn't any one thing or even handful of things that occurred during that period of time. It was all of these things converging together, these converging forces that came together to create that special century. And so as we use that as a metaphor to carry us forward and think about how do we understand the future, we talk about rehearsing the future. And I use the word rehearsing very specifically as opposed to predicting the future. We believe that it's impossible to predict the future. Things are too complex. They're moving too fast for us to accurately make any real predictions. But we can identify potential future scenarios and rehearse those scenarios. And we suggest that people do that by asking what-if questions. Because if we ask what-if questions today, we can avoid asking what-now questions in the future. And as we think about the growth of human knowledge and how that's really tied to human advancement, we think about language starting off with human advancement. That then moving towards writing, the democratization of that writing in the form of the printing press, and then the explosion of information and human knowledge that was enabled by the internet. And we think about a world where artificial intelligence now becomes part of our lives. And I believe that artificial intelligence is going to have a greater impact on innovation than any other application of general purpose technology that we're going to see. And as we look at our standard of living wheel that we visited earlier, we again find ourselves at a period of great transformation, largely driven by artificial intelligence, but a lot of the other things that we see going on in the world as well. And across all aspects of our lives, we're again going to see an elevation in our standard of living. And I won't go through all of these, but you can just see the list of things. If I could get my slides to advance here. We can see the elevation of our human existence across every aspect of our lives. The way that we eat, the way that we generate energy, our communications, the explosion of information that's going to come from that information, certainly the way that we work. Even the clothing that we wear. Education is going to become critically important as we try and get students ready for this new period of great transformation that we find ourselves in. And then material sciences. And for the first time since we were gathering firewood for fire, being able to move from a world of extraction to a world of creation. And so we're again in this period of convergence. And so we need a model similar to the model that we identified using history to help understand everything that's going on and the impact of that convergence. And so we created this graph that you see here. We like to call it our convergence model. And what it does is it tracks everything that we see going on, again, not just in science and technology, but societal factors, geopolitical factors, economic factors, and so on. We can zoom in to specific focus areas. Now today I'm going to use running as our focus area. And the reason that I'm using running is that TCS is very involved in the sport of running. We're the title sponsor of a number of major marathons around the world. The New York City Marathon, the London Marathon. And we use running as a way to really leverage the technology and use running as a test bed for the technology that we at TCS create. But we also use it as a way to inspire people towards doing things beyond what they thought they were capable of. And ultimately to improve health and wellness across society, leveraging the technology that we've developed in the context of running. So we're going to zoom into just a couple of these, what we call convergence forces, to get an understanding of what we mean or what those look like. We're going to start with advanced prosthetics. Let's take a look at what's going on with prosthetics today.
Well, basically, the way it works is that I think about the movement that I want to make, and I twitch a series of muscles, and the muscle twitches are being recorded by 16 electrodes that are positioned inside the socket, and then transform that into electric impulses that run through the forearm and powers the Covey hand, my bionic hand.
Okay, and where exactly does the AI come into the picture?
So the AI is a lot of data recording. It's basically every time I use the arm, every time I make a movement, it records it. It starts to learn how I use the arm, and it starts to predict the movements that I want to make, including rotating it like that.
So a great example of how new technology can enable the disabled to do things that they might not otherwise have been able to do. Another one that we're really excited about at TCS is digital twins. Let's take a look at that.
Imagine you could shave 30 seconds off your time without lacing up. As innovators solving problems around the world, TCS uses digital twin technology to help you rehearse the future. When you have a heart for innovation and belief runs deep, extraordinary solutions are entirely possible. With that kind of power, imagine the difference it could make in your world.
So that was Des Linden. Des Linden is a two-time Olympian, a Boston Marathon champion, and we worked in collaboration with Des Linden to create a digital twin of her heart to help her prepare for the Olympic Games that just happened in Paris. And Des is an older woman as athletes go. She's 40 years old, so she was really focused on how can I optimize every bit of my training. And so we created this digital twin of her heart and then ran simulations so that she could really optimize every bit of her training program and make rehearsals or predictions about what different training regimens might allow her to do. Now let me tell you a story about myself as it relates to digital twins. So go back to January of 2023, a year and a half ago, a little bit more. I was 20 pounds overweight. I wasn't eating properly. I wasn't sleeping well. And I saw that video of Des Linden, and I thought to myself, could the average person using commercially available technology, wearable technology, create their own digital twin and train for and run their first marathon? And so I set out to do exactly that. There we go. And I created a digital twin of myself. I started out by using generative AI to develop a training plan. I had a 3D image of my foot created and was able to purchase a shoe that matched the exact specifications of my foot, my arch, my shoe size, my gait, etc. I had a wearable that allowed me to track my training in real time. I had another wearable, a glucose monitor, that helped me understand how my diet and nutrition impacted my training program. I had another device that allowed me to monitor and track my daily strain and my recovery and how well I had recovered from the day prior. And I put all of this information into a tool that allowed me to track all of this information together. And in November of last year, I ran my first marathon, the TCS New York City Marathon. I went on to train for the London Marathon that happened earlier this spring, and I'm currently training for the Chicago Marathon coming up next month. I say all that because that's really the heart of what TCS is trying to do with things like digital twin technology. And I really encourage you to go out into the hallway and take a look at what we're doing around digital twins, not just with the heart, but with other parts of the body as well, where we'll eventually have a complete digital twin of the entire body. And we're continuing to carry this work forward. I'm one of a number of athletes, both amateur athletes like myself as well as elite athletes, that are having a digital twin of their own heart created, working in partnership with TCS. And we ask ourselves, well, that's great for, training for a marathon, but where else could that really be useful in society? We can do things like run cardiac analysis, so we can run simulations to understand the conditions of your heart in different conditions or different environments. Certainly this could be athletic stress, but it could also be stress at work. How is that impacting you? Soldiers on the battlefield, how does stress impact their overall health and wellness? Athletic performance, we already talked about. Being able to do predictive medicine, so sitting down with your doctor and looking at your digital twin and allowing them to run an analysis that says, if you'll start doing this kind of exercise, if you'll change your diet in this way, if you'll stop smoking, this is what your health is going to look like in 6 months, in 2 years, in 10 years. And make that very real for people and very actionable. Being able to monitor people's hearts and quickly identify a condition. Things like hypertension, heart attacks, if they're caught early, they can be dealt with very successfully. If it gets all the way until the point where something emergent is happening, that becomes a big problem. If we can identify those things very early on, that can be very powerful. And even preparing for surgical procedures. Imagine if your surgeon could perform the surgery on your digital heart before he actually gets into the operating room and identify and anticipate things that might go wrong before you're ever in the operating room, and make sure that he addresses those before they become a problem. So as I wrap up today, I really hope that this inspires you a little bit to think creatively to be collaborative, and then most importantly, to be endlessly curious about the world around you and to think differently. Because it's those who think differently who really have big impacts on the world, who are able to lift up societies, help marginalized people, come up with the great inventions of the world, beautiful pieces of art. These are all the people that are really changing the world, and I think we can all do that in our own small way if we can think differently. So with that, I'll say thank you and goodbye.
Thank you for being here, Bill. Thank you so much. Bueno, Bill Quinn, que es futurista de Tata Consultancy Services, muchas gracias. Cierra nuestro primer track.